Welcome back to Views on News. This is my buddy Joe. We're going to discuss today the fact in Oregon that they're finding cattle with their testicles removed and their tongue cut out. These are like $7,000 prize bulls in Central Oregon. The interesting thing is it's been happening since 1980 at different towns in Central Oregon. So there's these sprawling ranches, right? Like they have hundreds of acres, if not thousands of acres. And anyone who's ever been on a big ranch like that knows, like, if somebody drives across your property or something, you're going to be able to tell that they drove across your property, right?
Maybe.
If they walked across
acres though, and you're way off in the corner, and
right,
somebody's off in the other.
But there's no. So the interesting thing is, next to these bodies, they don't find any tire tracks, they don't find footprints, they don't find blood, but yet surgically removed. And that's the other crazy thing. It's not like, if you look at like a butcher cutting a piece of steak, it looks like a clean cut, right? But if you put it under a microscope, you would see the cut marks, right? They're saying there's essentially no cut marks. They can't find like how they took the testicles off and the tongue out without causing massive bleeding and whatnot.
Laser.
That's what people are saying. So the conspiracy theory is that it's aliens, because it's happened at other places in the world and whatnot, not just Oregon. But there's been a good 8 cows and 4 in the last month.
Castration of cows.
Castration and tongue removal with no blood, no sign that somebody came onto your property, and not to mention they're dead. It's a multi-thousand-pound aggressive animal is the other thing to consider. The latest one that it happened in tongue, yeah, it's just why tongue and testicles, like
reproductive and tongue.
Yes.
And speaking.
So like salivary glands, like your taste buds, like there's a lot going on with your tongue, right? And it's a big muscle. Why they're taking that, I don't know. But all the meat's still left. It's not like they're cutting, like the ribeyes off or the backstrap, if you will.
I mean, it's not.
And that's the reigning theory. Is it like a competitor or something that wants you to not be able to sell your bull and whatnot? But why would you not just cap the bull in the head and leave it to die or something like that? Why are you removing the testicles and how? And how are you getting on the property unnoticed? And how
doesn't make sense.
There's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up. And so the conspiracy theory is that it's aliens, and the fact that it's happened all over the world in different cases. And the rumor has it, according to the last article, which was done by NPR, National Public Radio, they came out saying that the FBI will not confirm or deny that they are looking into it, but they have been contacted about it, and it is something of interest to them. But they won't say that they're investigating it. But the rancher who just had 4 in this place called Pendleton, Oregon, they lost 4 people off of the ranch that will no longer work there. It's the biggest ranch in Oregon.
I mean, that's not a copycat deal,
it could be, and since 1980. But like, how old is the person? Like, for the last 30 years, you're capable of like taking down a aggressive 1,000-pound animal and then taking their tongue and testicles, and then all over the world too, not just Oregon. Like, it's a concentrated thing in Oregon. But so yeah, there's just a whole lot of questions more than answers, obviously, but it's interesting. I've always been a person until recently who didn't believe, like, anytime someone started talking about aliens, I was just like, well, I gotta go. Okay, see you later. Because there's so much bullshit surrounding it that I wouldn't give it the time of day. But recently, with looking into actual credible witnesses like Bob Lazar and the admiral from the Navy who had David Attenborough, I think his name is.
I forgot what his name was. I seen that though.
Yeah, and so I've been, kind of like, okay, let's revisit this. Like, is there some credible shit outside of all the ancient alien shit and stuff like that? And, there's just a lot to handle. And then, again, I've never been into space or anything, so I finally started educating myself on, like, the planet situation, the solar system, all that stuff, to try and get a grasp on the idea. And it does make sense to me that outside of our solar system, because obviously how it works is the sun's like the energy source for all these planets. There's one section in our solar system where if you're in that section, you'll be able to grow life and sustain life, and it'll be like a viable planet. The only planet in that is Earth in our solar system. But then you get out to the outer edges, like they sent this drone by Pluto, and it captured images of Pluto, and it was nothing like what they thought it was. There's like 10,000 foot ice mountains. There's glaciers, like you can see water has ran into like the lower level parts of the planet. It has its own sphere, just like the Earth does, that glows blue. It has like 6 moons that surround it. One is almost the size of Pluto, and you could, like, if you were standing on Pluto, you'd be able to see it as if our moon was like, you know, like way closer up, and like this gigantic, you could actually grasp the size of the planet. And so it got me thinking, like, they found this volcano which they think exploded on the island, or on the planet, and created like a ocean underneath of it, with kind of similar to Crater Lake, if anyone's ever been there in Oregon. And so it could have sustained life at some point. Like it could have, because planets move around and adjust in the solar system. Sometimes they run into each other and will get ejected from the solar system, and they find what they call rogue planets, where it's way too big to be a star, and at one point it was a planet in the solar system, but it got too far away from the sun, if you will, as a because that's what creates life, obviously. Like, it's what makes our plants grow, it's what heats the earth, yada yada, so that everything's not a frozen hell, essentially. Or Mars is too close to the sun, so it's too hot for any type of ice or water or anything, so nothing can live on it. But it makes sense that if there are other solar systems and they do have a sun, that they might have a planet inside of their zone that makes it so life can grow on it. And who knows what's on that, and how infinite is space and how many different solar systems are there. And so now that I've kind of like educated myself a little bit on it, I'm a lot more open to the possibility that it's that. I don't know that they're coming down and sucking cows up into a spaceship and like laser removing their testicles and tongues and then just dropping them back onto the ranch. This seems like there's probably some more things that could be going on there.
Do these guys own like restaurants or something selling cow tongue and
I see where you're going. I don't know for sure, to be honest, but yeah, I don't. The interesting thing was that the guy that's the head of the ranch said that like everyone that works there is scared. Like, he lost 4 employees and they require everyone to wear guns, and they all ride horseback. There's not really ATVs and stuff on a massive ranch like this when you're trying to. But when you're trying to get to cattle, like up in the mountains and whatnot, that are kind of free range, if you're riding up on a 4-wheeler, they're going to go the opposite way, and you're never going to come up on them. So when they're up looking like, where's our bull at? It hasn't been down to feed in a week or whatever, and they're trying to go find it. Like, it's, I guess, much easier terrain to do on horseback. There's also not a bunch of set roads, like where the cattle aren't just following the road.
Should chase them down with drones.
Even better, right? That's a great idea. But so they found these 4 cows on this property where all 4 of them had this happen to it. And the guy basically said everyone's scared and they all carry guns now, because if something can take down a 1,000-pound animal like that, that's very aggressive, and then take its testicles and tongue, like, what could it do to us, is what he said. So it sounds like even they think like it's something, like it freaks them out. Like, it's not, they don't think it's some rival rancher coming to their ranch and killing their bulls. So they think it's something different. Like, we're kind of hinting toward alien without saying it. So I don't know. I don't know where I fall on that. I'm much more open to believing that shit's out there and whatnot, but I don't know that it's, what's coming here and taking bull nuts back to space with it. It was just so weird. Like, there's so many questions and not any answers.
Dude, that's life right there. So many questions, not very many answers.
Where do you fall on the taste of bull testicles? No, on the old alien talk.
Never had, actually. Never had Rocky Mountain oysters. I don't think it's really at the top of my list. Really, things I'm interested in trying, but
makes you strong like bull.
I mean, maybe like Highlander. You like cut somebody's head off and you gain some powers,
right? What about the alien talk? Are you a believer? Do you subscribe to that line of thought? Or
I mean, it's hard to believe in anything I haven't seen with my own 2 eyes. So, I mean, I can't say that I'm a full believer in anything like that, but I feel like I've seen some shit move about in the night sky that I can't explain.
Right.
That doesn't make sense in the way of, like, even a meteor, going one direction and then going another, and it's just a light flickering in the sky. And it's so far away, you have no fucking comprehension of the size of it or anything. And I know a plane doesn't fly like that.
Right.
And it's fucking weird, man. I can't explain it.
Yeah. I've had multiple experiences like that too. But my thing is, the thing that gets me is I always go off of like, it's generally the lowest common denominator. Like if it's easily explained by science or explained by science, then you can subscribe to that. But the, excuse me, the explanations given by our government for things that have happened that multiple people saw or heard or what have you is like, so, I don't know. It's like watching an episode of Law and Order, if you will. Like they're like trying to lead you in a complete different direction, and then they like, here's what's actually going on, and at the end of it, you find out, oh, it was this guy all along, or they're like hot air balloon stories, and like, oh, it was certain gases in the atmosphere, and blah blah blah. Like it just seems like bullshit. Like if you're gonna come up with a reason for it, then give a logical explanation, not just you saw a hot air balloon that moved through the sky at a high rate of speed with multiple lights on it and whatnot. It could have just been maybe Russia was here or something, but if they said Russia was here in an F-18 or something, like that would make sense to people. But when you're telling people that saw something that, oh, it was just a mix of gases, or
it's hard to tell somebody that saw something that they didn't see what they saw.
Yeah,
but it's also like you take into consideration that, okay, this dot is really small and it's really, really, really far away, and for it to move a span of even inches across the sky should take a lot longer than
And if you ever go out in the country away from all the light, where it's you're up on a mountain, there's no one else up there, and you're on the hood of your car and you're just staring up at the stars, that's a whole different experience than where like I grew up seeing in a city, and you're like, oh, there's the North Star, there's this, there's that. You can literally see like the form of the galaxy, the color changes, all sorts of shit buzzing around that I guess as satellites is what people tell you. I have no fucking idea.
Satellites, meteors, fucking
stars, dead stars. That you know what I mean. Like I've seen shooting stars, and I've seen some shit that didn't look like a shooting star that was going this way and now it went that way. Right. I don't think I saw an alien necessarily, but I don't know what the fuck that is. And most explanations I get aren't something that. A lot of them almost insult your intelligence. Like, really? You're telling me I saw this when clearly that can't do that?
If in fact there is a dome of some kind up there, then I can see maybe a deflection type of thing. Something.
Yeah, like a star hits another star and then goes in a different direction.
Angularly, it just happens to be in your perception coming and going at a weird point of view. But I don't fucking know. I mean, I'm not a physicist or a fucking...
So here's a fact that might blow your mind like it did mine. So it took 10 years to get a lightweight drone from Earth to fly by Pluto to take pictures of it. And they cut 3 years off of the process by using the gravitational pull of Jupiter and shutting down all the systems and letting it push it past Jupiter. And then they did a trial run taking pictures of Jupiter to make sure it was all working properly. And they shut it into dormant mode, and they bring it back up 10 years later, the computer system, to at the exact time that it's going to be passing by this planet. Like, they've done the calculations, which blows my fucking mind that they did calculations of, hey, if we use the gravitational pull of Pluto, we can cut 3 years off, and then they turn the computer back on. And you've fucked with computers. Like, sometimes shit doesn't go the way you think it is.
Remotely fuck with anything once it's gone away from you.
It's all remote controlled, and that's the thing. Like, my Wi-Fi won't work from downstairs to upstairs sometimes, but they can. It's for 10 years away from us. They can get data off of this thing.
I don't even believe that.
And that's the biggest thing for me is I'm not smart enough to know if that person in a lab coat is selling me something to get more money for more things they want to do by telling me, here's these pictures of this. Like, you could have made that on a computer, and I'm too dumb to understand it because you're so much smarter than me.
Obviously, you can see that they can make anything on a computer,
And so, not saying that that's what happens or that I don't trust NASA or any of that, but, like... Potentially. But it's like you are, with anything, you are subject to, as a layman to trusting the interpretation of scientists. Like, you just are.
Why the flat Earth people came out of the woodworks also randomly, because it's like, well, fuck, they started questioning life in general. All the shit you've been told since you were brought up as a kid.
Yeah.
Like what's real and what's not. Like, just because you're told it doesn't make it real. Not necessarily. Like
what's also to stop intellectuals of that level, because that science in general is going to get the smartest of the smartest, right? Outside of maybe math. So what's to stop them from sitting around a table like this, like 30 of them, being like, let's say this is what happens, and see, here's how I look at it. So I found out that the wildlife organizations play upon people's emotions. So if you just put like a stray dog up, like people are going to have a certain emotional response to, like, hey, save the puppies. There's not a whole lot of puppies they're seeing like that aren't being saved. Versus if you say save the tigers, all the tigers are dying off, and you do an ad campaign for tigers, people are donating left and right. Like, yeah, we got to save the wild tigers.
Why are we donating and getting people together to exploring the edges of the earth here? To be filming and podcasting and showing the journey and fucking being like, look, we're literally going to where the compass points. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a journey that I'd like to experience.
Right.
All compasses on Earth point somewhere. Where the fuck's that pointing?
Yeah.
Where does that point lead to?
And again, somebody told us, like, this is pointing to the north has like a certain pull of magnetism that the other parts don't have, and it's going to point north if like the compass wants to point north. Somebody told me that. I learned it in school, and now it's a belief. What's to stop somebody way smarter than the rest of us from brainwashing us from the time we're little kids into thinking? And that's the climate change argument. Like, a lot of people say, we're just subject to these people. Like, they weren't around 100 million years ago to know what the fuck the Earth did. They're just guessing, and so they're telling the rest of us that we're fucking up the planet. How do we know the planet wouldn't do that on its own? And you do see that with other planets, if you're trusting in science.
It is doing it on its own because the planet's an organism that we happen to be a part of.
Right.
We're also a part of that.
And when you see it from space, our cities look like scabs on the planet. They really do. It looks like a growth of like fucking moles or something on the planet when you see New York, And so, yeah, and it's almost like the planet wants to heal itself because it'll wipe out whole cities sometimes, whole civilizations maybe, So maybe we are the scab on the planet.
In a big way, I mean, I could see that. But at the same time, like, our reality is relevant, it's here. So
that's all you can trust. I guess that's what I was getting at before I went on that tangent. Is we're at the mercy of all these other people, but what's right outside your front door and what you can hold with two hands is what's actually real to you, and that's how you should look at it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting to contemplate. Life is very vast and multidimensional, so it takes a lot of thought and effort to really perceive things.
I believe it could be. It could be some. If you think about what we would do if we could go to another planet that we were far superior over, like if there's an anthill, us being humans, we're there with a magnifying glass. Like, what happens if I put this little red dot on this ant? Oh, look, I caught it on fire. Fucking cooked the little bastard, right? So, or if you're of scientific minded, like, what happens if I scoop this dirt up? Let me look at it under a microscope. And so that's what that type of mentality is wanting to do. So if there is a civilization that's way more advanced than us and they want to come here, they're going to want to take soil samples. They're going to want to take, hey, everyone's eating these bull things the whole time, or cows, as like one of their main food sources.
We're trying to reproduce them.
That's the common denominator too. And this is the joke I wanted to get to. Okay, Bill Cosby's in prison for putting people to sleep and raping them, right? How many people have the aliens put to sleep and probed and stuck shit up their ass and played with their dingleberries and, you know what I mean? Like, aliens are just Cosby from another planet. They're just coming here like, here's some Rufalin, now I'm going to check out your genitals. What's up?
Throw you back. Don't say anything.
That is a weird common denominator with almost every alien story, though. They're always probing up assholes and taking genitals. Like, scary, it's weird. And if they're doing the same thing to our animals, our prize bulls, if you will, in Pendleton, Oregon, great whiskey, try it out. Get yourself a blanket. But, yeah, maybe they really are interested in... Maybe they don't reproduce the same way we do, so they're interested in it, Like, I could see that being a possibility, but do I necessarily believe that these bulls in Oregon since 1980 are having this happen, or is there some weird fucking surgeon who just likes going and seeing if he could freak people out or something? Like, there's a million possibilities. I don't know, but
how do you feel about racism against robots?
And that's what we're about to get into. I can't fucking believe that's a real news article. All right, we're out.